Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of Erased, your weekly true crime picks dedicated to telling the stories of missing and murdered women of color. I'm your host Mooney, and today we will be talking about the case of Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. So as I mentioned before, today we will be talking about the case of Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. So Ashley was 20 years old and resided on the Blackfeet Nation Native American tribe located in northwest Montana. Everything was going really well for Ashley, and it looked like she had a really bright future ahead of her. That was until two major losses occurred in her life that kind of steered her off course. So the first loss was the death of her grandfather, and as I mentioned before, her grandfather had helped to raise her, so this left a really big hole in her life. She was temporarily able to find happiness with her first love, but unfortunately that ended in heartbreak. So after these two big losses, people said Ashley became a completely different person. She started using drugs and hanging out with an older and rougher crowd. Her family says that her behavior started to change, and she would often disappear for long periods of time without contacting any of them, but she always reached out eventually. However, on June 5th, 2017, Ashley disappeared again, but this time she didn't come back. So, on June 5th, 2017, Ashley left her family's ranch under the guise that she was going to get a ride into town to visit a friend. She was seen on video drinking and partying that very same night, and she even sent a text to her sister Kimberly asking for money on that day. However, Kimberly at this time was in Morocco, so she couldn't send her any money, but she did ask her if she was okay, and Ashley responded that she was just fine. Ashley even went on social media to ask friends for a ride into town from her family's ranch. However, after that night, no one in the family would hear from Ashley again. A little bit after Ashley's disappearance, Kimberly returned from Morocco. She expected to hear from Ashley as soon as she landed, but this was not the case. Kimberly now lived in Missoula, Montana, where she'd landed a job working with senior citizens, which is a pretty good gig. As a result, she was able to buy a house there, and upon her return, the plan was for her and Ashley to move in together so they could start a new life together. However, Ashley had not been responding to any of Kimberly's voice and text messages, and after speaking with a couple of different people, she realized that no one had heard from Ashley since June 5th. Like I said, it was normal for Ashley to kind of go out of contact with her family for short periods of time, but never this long. So, everyone was rightfully worried, and Kimberly especially. And eventually, at some point, her father was also in the hospital with liver failure, and several attempts were made to contact Ashley about this, but she never answered any of them. And this is when Kimberly knew that something was really, really wrong. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to Erased again. Before we go, if you found this podcast generally enjoyable, please show some love by subscribing and or leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, if you have any cases you would like to suggest for an upcoming episode, please email the pod at erased.podcast@gmail.com or reach out on social media at the links provided below. Also, don't forget to enter the Erased Holiday Giveaway. Winners will be announced on Christmas Day. Details on how to enter are on our website. And alright guys, love you, and stay tuned for next week's tale of a woman erased.